Hello and welcome back to the Exchange Art Artist Workshop series. In this series, we dig deep with artists from all over the Solana ecosystem to get down to what makes them tick, how they interact in the space, and how they view themselves as artists. Today, we're joined by the lovely Rebecca Rose. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Goku. This is quite an honor. I love Exchange, love you. Yeah, just excited to be here.
Yeah, I really love these talks too because, like I feel like you and I both have been in the space for quite some time now. We do a lot of these audio kind of interactions on Twitter, Discord, podcasts, whatever it may be. And I feel like you're someone who navigates these spaces really well. And I think that comes a little bit from the experience that you have in that you're not just an artist in the Web3 space, right? You've been an artist for your lifetime now, and then you entered into this brand new tool, which is Web3. So I want to start there. Like, how long have you been an artist, and like, how did you find Web3?
Oh my goodness. I've been an artist. I've been an artist my whole life. I've been a professional artist, like doing galleries and shows for 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, which has
That's
been
awesome.
it was a rough start at first, like any artist, whether you're just getting into NFTs and haven't had an exhibition yet, or if you're a traditional artist and haven't had an exhibition yet. It's like getting that first exhibition, it always feels like the hardest. But with that, you use the momentum to drive you and to stay hungry for like the next gallery, and the next opportunity.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been 25 years of that. But I started doing art, when I was 5 or 6.
That's awesome. Do you think that that experience has and all of that, like having to hustle and communicate with all these different galleries and people and everything, do you think that that's kind of uniquely positioned you for entering NFTs and Web3?
I think so. Well, it's not a definitive yes or no answer because, there are crossovers, there are similarities, but there's so many vast differences too. Because when I entered the space over 2 years ago now, oh my gosh, it feels like,
It's crazy how
oh
time
my
flies.
goodness, yeah. When I entered the space, the sentiment was the gallery system is dead. We no longer need galleries, yada, yada, yada. And
Mm-hmm.
having come from the gallery world, I was like the lone voice that kind of the devil's advocate a little bit in, Clubhouse and whatnot,
Yep.
saying like, it's not an either or, it's an and. It can be a both. And I saw early on that there would be galleries, traditional galleries that would enter the NFT space, and same with traditional artists that would enter the NFT space. And I think in terms of it positioning an artist in like with an advantage, I think that's a toss up. That's a roll of the dice, because some artists that come from the trad world, I've seen enter the NFT space and not find success because they're not
Right.
able to adapt to the smaller differences, and then get frustrated and leave. Or and then I've seen some trad artists that kind of take their current model in the trad world and then morph it into one that complements the digital one, the NFT
Right.
space, and find success. So it's for me personally, though, I think it's just, I'm all about experience one way or the other. And I think that if you utilize experience in like intentional and meaningful ways, with your next step forward, and even like long-term, legacy thinking,
Mm-hmm.
that it absolutely can be an advantage.
Yeah, I think something like I've noticed from the outside looking in, and again, you're right. It's so situational, right? People can be
Mm-hmm.
very stuck in prior ways and not be adaptable enough. But where I've seen, like, especially with people like yourself, is kind of in the work ethic and the drive and the structuring of their days. And you're like, I think I saw something from you a couple months back, or maybe it was in December sometime, and it was like, I use this day of the week to do my gallery outreaches. I use this day of my week to do this. And like, of course
Yeah.
you're mixing art into each of those days, but you're like, you do the stuff that you might not necessarily want to do. And I think that structure is really cool to see from people. And maybe it's not just in the traditional art world, but like I'll say career artists, right? I think you have to learn how to do that kind of the stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate you recognizing that. There's and it's not the most glamorous part about being a career artist or having like a very focused approach towards being an artist as a career. Like, but it's necessary. Like whether
Right.
it's, having a day, usually Fridays is when I, draft a bunch of grant proposals and residency proposals and send those out. Thursdays are for meetings. Like there's, certain structural, like scheduling structure. How do I say that? Structure. I don't know. But yeah, that kind of like organization
Yes.
definitely pulled over into the NFTs practice for me, because I see it as like a grander ecosystem. Like
Right.
like yes, I do NFTs, and that is kind of that's where my practice has shifted. But there's a bunch of other non-NFT artist opportunities out there that I still strive for, that I intend to, kind of like get my foot in the door with NFTs, so that way they get used to,
Yeah.
understanding how to show NFT
Of course.
artists, and then, in the future would be more likely to bring on, more NFT artists. So I'm kind of like, I keep putting feelers out, because and to kind of backtrack a little bit, last summer I was at the Joan Mitchell Artist Foundation for their artist in residency program. Very established, very well respected, like career making artist residency. It's always at like at the top of the lists for a lot of residencies. And they had never had NFT artists be a part of their program. So I was their first one, which
Wow.
is a huge honor. And all I did when I was there was work on my exchange portfolio, my form function portfolio, and my super rare portfolio. And the reason why it's important to constantly seek out non-NFT opportunities with your art is because if you land them, you can then make it easier for the next NFT artist to come in,
Yep.
because it just takes that first person to kind of, show the organization and the residency, the gallery, what have you, that, what NFTs are all about, and that it's, we're not all a scam, and to, kind of like open the doors to welcome more NFT artists.
It's like, oh wow, these are just actually artists, but they're using
Yeah,
NFTs. Like, who would have thought? It's like
exactly.
some of them are even making physical art that then becomes digital. Oh my goodness, it's so funny. But
Yeah, and I feel weird like using the term NFT artist, because
right,
that's like, what it even is that? Like, we're all artists. But yeah, yeah. We're in the same
it's an interesting dichotomy for sure. It is.
page.
Um, yeah, education seems to be like something that's really important to you, and
Hmm.
a trend that I've noticed, like you kind of continue throughout knowing you now for, I mean, we just looked at almost 2 years now, which is just crazy to
Yeah.
think. Um, like talk a little bit about how you do. You just talked a little bit about educating galleries. I always see you kind of traversing these different spaces and always trying to educate on, whether it be things like I've seen you talk about hologram technology. I've seen
Hmm.
you talk about just educating why art on chain matters. Like, talk a little bit about the educator side of yourself.
Oh, wow. I love this question so much. I think it's because like a lot of the people that I admire and myself influenced by, do that themselves. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, love him to death. Saw him the other night in concert, and he's an educator. I know this sounds crazy, but Walt Disney, like, a lot of people don't think about Walt Disney being an educator, but if you go back to like his TV series from the 50s, like that's pretty much all he's doing. Like he's educating his audience on, the real life of bobcats, or like how rockets get launched into space. Like all of these key influential people that I admire in my life kind of like come through in how I communicate with people in this space, because I think the space changes so fast. Like
Yes.
if you don't keep your mind open to these new changes and to learn about them and to be receptive when when education comes into the pipeline in conversation, then it's going to create even more hurdles for you. So I think ongoing education, is paramount for success here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was saying this the other day, and I think that, someone was getting mad about trends happening. Essentially, they were like,
Mm,
like, oh, like I hate when something blows up and then then it's less popular in a couple months. And something I think that's really great about trends is they create an education layer. Not 100% of those participants are going to be like stay there, right? But
mhm,
maybe 5%, maybe 10%, maybe 20%, they stay behind and they learned, like, okay, let's use abstract art as an example. Like abstract art had a complete moment on Solana, right? And that was through education, right? People
mhm,
realized why it mattered. And I think the same thing goes with collage work, with photography. Like, once more people learn why a specific medium matters, then that kind of starts the snowball starts. And then, that person that you educated, all of a sudden you'll hop into a space and you'll hear them repeating something that you said, or something kind of their version of what you said. And I think that's really like important for the growth of art and in general, and especially in a naive space like this, like an art naive space rather. Like I would say a lot of crypto artists, is a little bit more naive to art as a history, right?
mm. Yeah, good point. Like those trends, like micro trends that we see kind of like in our own bubble, like if we compare them to the parallel of like a greater macro art history, like art movements, like there's so much to learn there for sure. I hadn't thought about that like
It's something
that.
I've been
Yeah.
paying attention to a lot, especially like
Mm.
I think you get a lot of it when you're early somewhere, right? You get to see like little things happen and then the growth that is subsequent from there.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a blessing from getting to watch like art flourish and grow in all of these different ecosystems.
Yeah, 100% agree. Oh, I love this conversation. I could just talk about art with you all day long.
Let's turn the tables a bit, though. Let's talk about your art, because I
Mm,
think that your art is so amazing. I want to
thank
start
you.
with, like, just first of all, where you kind of get the inspiration behind your art, and then let's talk a little bit about how it's created, because I think some of it is just, I mean, all of it is really fun, but some of these are just like you get lost in them for a while, and it's just like, where did this come from?
Yeah, thank you. It's like, oh gosh, where did it come from? I had mentioned Walt Disney earlier, and he's a huge influence on my life, my work, like what I love to do, which I know sounds really corny, but it's the truth. And I'm like, as transparent as can be when I talk about this. So I grew up watching a lot of Disney films and being able to go to Disneyland and growing up in the park pretty much. Um, and
Shout out Florida kids.
yeah. And California too. Like I grew up on near the West Coast and then moved out here when I was in my mid-20s, which, one of the main reasons why I moved to Florida was because Walt Disney World was here. But like when I stepped into like a Disney park, when I stepped into Disneyland, um to the point to where like I was there so much, my parents would just drop me off and it became like my babysitting times. It was the 90s, you know,
Yep.
but different rules
Different
back then.
time.
But like I saw it as like stepping into a life-size art installation. Like it really is like a giant sculpture that you can walk around and play with, and like I would go up and touch like the textures and look at the detail and the craftsmanship of everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is possible to step into like a work of art. And so that has actually influenced like my career, like since I started, you know, in the late 90s, like doing gallery exhibitions and stuff, which sounds kind of like hoity-toity to say, or far-fetched rather. Far-fetched, it sounds far-fetched, but I love that sense of playfulness. And like with my, excuse me, sorry about that, with my my exchange artworks with Aeon Manifesto, it really is like an opportunity to kind of dive into the story with all of these strange, crazy visuals that you know would only exist on other planets. And I like that escapism. Let's call it what it is. Escapism. Like I
I love
need
that.
that. I need that. And I know that others need it too, which is totally fine. And whatever, you know, kind of like tickles that brain cell, um, or gives you that comfort or makes you think of something that has yet to be, like that's what influences my work. And so there's like the Aeon Manifesto, where you kind of like are a space traveler with a crew, and you encounter all of these different portals and different planets and different species based off of your own choices that you make for you and your crew. So and some of those choices are bad, but I like that that stepping into something, stepping into the story is a huge influencer on my work. And then with the 3D collages that I'm doing, like those again are like you know, made in three-dimensional form digitally, where the intention is to put them into the metaverse as a GLB, to where you can then walk through them as like a life-size art installation in the metaverse. And then with my hologram knowledge, being able to pull that back into IRL as a hologram to you know, step into the story and be part of this life-size digital collage hologram that you can walk in and
That's
play with.
awesome.
Thanks.
It's so cool. You know, I think it's really great also the way that you've utilized not only like the having fun elements and like this like you wanting to like say this like whimsical story, but you figured out ways to put work in certain places that kind of draws the collector towards other areas. You know, it's like,
Mm,
you know, you come over here and you have like this like very futuristic like escapism kind of art that you get to be involved in, and then you have your like super complex like just moving 3D collages that are just crazy. And like I think it's important to like for artists to do that, right? And I think like you said, working on your portfolio for certain places, I think
mhm.
it's really smart, you know.
Yeah, it's essential. Like, and that's kind of like what we do when we curate our own work into certain collections or series. You know, where does
Hmm.
this series fit best, or where will this series, you know, kind of flourish? Is it a good fit? And yeah, like some of the kind of deeper 3D digital collage works, like they have a heavier substance matter. You
Yeah,
know, they're much more serious, and in terms of like execution and in terms of like the message I want to communicate as well. So you know, those are of course like on a in their own kind of home on super rare. And then like also on Solana with form function, there's the transatlantic series, which then ties the the intention there is to be cross-chain and have a series live cross-chain, to almost like an equalizer. So like it starts on Solana, goes to super rare, comes back to Solana, might go to Tez for a little while, and then exchange is more of like where all of these like wild zany storylines can kind of come to fruition, and not only like as a digital work of art, but also as a quad split holographic NFT, which the collectors can then experience in their real space as a hologram. So like I definitely have those kind of compartmentalized.
Yeah, I think it's cool too to have like that future vision, right? It's like, I mean, how many other people are talking about holograms right now? Like, again, that's such a Disney goer thing. It's like, wait, I want to project onto Mist and make it a hologram.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw a hologram was at Disney for sure. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. I know exactly which one you're talking about, the Barbosa, like right before
They changed that. That's an old school Disney ride nowadays, but
yeah, and it's to answer your question, like how many people are talking about holograms? Not enough. And kind of like how I was the lone person 2 years ago being like, gallery, we need the gallery system. Don't totally discount the gallery system. Like we still need them. I was also the person, and I still am to this day, that says, there will come a time where us looking at NFTs from our flat device screen won't be enough. There will come a time where that we'll grow intolerant of it, and we'll expect something beyond just looking at our flat device screens, whether it's a phone or a laptop or tablet, what have you, and we're going to expect to interact with digital works and digital everything in a more three-dimensional way, and that's where holograms come into the mix. And just as much as we emphasize the importance of us bringing our physical selves into the digital metaverse, it's a two-way road. It's a two-way road. We need to also focus on bringing that digital sphere back into our physical realm in new and inventive ways, and that's why holograms are going to do it. Like holograms are really, I can't say it enough. I can't stress it enough. It'll change everything from art to design to architecture to how we communicate with each other. Like you and I were basically on a Zoom right now, but imagine us having like our quad split holograms, one in each house, and then being able to communicate as if we're really in each other's homes. Like so much of it will change. E-commerce will change. Instead of
I don't know if I want that for Zoom though, because I typically don't wear pants. I'm wearing pants today, but like for Zoom calls, I have to just do maybe a hologram bust only.
Well, they have that at the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, so maybe that.
Or it's like a filter. It's like a filter for pants. It's like you could just and a suit, really. It's like, okay, let me put on the suit today.
That's true. That's
really
true.
You're just laying in your living room naked, but it looks like you're in your office. That's a future I'm here for. Move over, Chat GPT.
Right? You could just tell the hologram generator, okay, put me in a
today I want to wear an edgy 90s punk aesthetic, and then you just walk out of your house fully AI dressed. The future is wild.
I love it. I hope I'm still around for it, because
I don't know if I want to be.
Oh,
it's
really?
scary.
Oh,
I was reading something about what happens when it's just people's AIs competing against each other, and I was like, oh god, here we go. No, it'll be fun until it's not, and hopefully I'm there. I hope I see the first part of not, and then I'm like, okay, time to go to bed forever. That's
oh wow. Yeah. Stuff like that. We need to hear more of these types of conversations being discussed. Not just, Web3, but what will Web4 look like? What will Web5 look like? Is Web4 like that hybridization, that more that true hybridization of like the digital coming into our physical realm in like as holograms is Web 5, like when we merge with, you know, robotics and have chips in ourselves. Like these, like I want to hear more types of conversations like these. And I credit working for Disney for as long as I did. I was an artist with Disney for 18 years, in addition to having like my professional art career.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that they kind of like really hit home. It was, I don't want to say brainwashed, but they really emphasized like, okay, yes, we are, you know, looking at building for the now and you know, solving for XYZ, but also think, you know, what are we building for 5 years? What are we building for 10 years? How are we solving XYZ for the future? And what kind of questions are we also asking others to solve as well? So like that kind of forward thinking is just, it's been kind of drilled in for a while. And so I honestly see holograms as like a natural next step.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think what happens so often is like innovation happens first, and then people start to crave it, and then like the people who make the products catch up, and then
Mm-hmm.
normal consumers then are like the last ones, right? But that innovation, which is most oftentimes led by artists and creatives, to be honest with you, and
It's
then
true.
it's taken and adopted from there. I was talking about this with screen technology, like display technology. Right now, we're still using basically a TV, right? What happens
Yeah.
when companies are actually making things that are specified for art, that are super lightweight, that barely draw any power? You know, it's like, I mean, again, we have to wait for production to like catch up, right? And that's like
Mm-hmm.
that's an interesting part. I think right now with this movement, like this digital art Web3 movement, is like we're ahead of technology, like physical technology with digital technology. So it's quite interesting to watch both kind of catch up to one another a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's and going back to how you said everything, you know, starts with artists and creatives. It really does. Like with a lot of what we've seen and what we will continue to see, you know, we're in early Star Trek's, you know, the original series episodes.
Yep.
And you know, all of the things in pop culture, and a lot of times it happens, it starts with film, but even before then it starts with writing. Like a lot of these ideas and innovations start with, you know, great storytelling and imaginative novels and nonfiction or and fiction, um, and classic literature that over time like kind of help shape, you know, not just what could be but what will be.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
it's really cool to kind of be on some of the cusp of that.
As long as Elon Musk is not Tony Stark, I'm fine. I'm good
I
to
see
go.
him more as like a Howard Hughes.
That's a little
I
better.
could be wrong, but
That's
but he's
funny.
certainly no Walt Disney, that's for sure.
No, keep the heroes safe. No, indeed, indeed. You navigate across chains a lot, and I'm curious on how you kind of how you view that, and also how you navigate being in these different communities. Right? I mean, it's a lot
Mm.
of work to stay communicative across places, stay relevant in all these different communities. So, just want to talk a little bit about how you kind of navigate that and how you stay sane through that. Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I started on Ethereum. I was born into ETH early 2021. So 2 years ago. And then in May of 21, found out about Hikayunk, which is now defunct.
Oh yes.
But you know, long live object, which is on Tez. And you know, I think by having those kind of early cross chain not tendencies, but like experimentations,
Mhm.
like really opened my eyes to Solana like fall of 2021 when oh my gosh, like
That's
I
right at
think
the
it was
birth
like
of exchange.
Boogles. Yeah. And like Boogles, and I can't recall if Thugbirds were around then, but like when I saw PFP projects launching there, I thought, well, what comes next is one of one artworks. And so I did a little research. Actually, a lot of the Twitter spaces that you hosted fall of 2021 about Solana, I learned so much from, so much. And I can't thank you enough for sharing all of your
Of course.
learnings and wisdom and everything. And so I started minting like late 2021 in December. So it's been over a year on Solana. And I think and this was before, I mean, as an ETH, well, not myself in ETH Maxi, but being an ETH artist to cross chain
Yeah.
to like Solana was unheard of. Like it was just not done.
Yes.
It wasn't talked about. It wasn't
People didn't even know there was art.
encouraged. Yeah. And when I would bring it up in spaces, like, oh, I just minted on Holoplex was my first platform. I minted 3 works. I'm like, yeah, I just dropped on Solana. Everyone was like aghast. They're like, oh, like you're you're on ETH in super rare. Why would you go to Solana? And it's like, well, why not go to Solana? Why not go to
Right.
Tez? I see, and this might be rose colored and it might be naive of me to say, but I see the space as like, I'm chain agnostic, I am platform agnostic, I am just like, there will come a time where you don't even think about like switching from your Phantom wallet to your MetaMask to your Temple wallet. It'll just all be together. And it, like, not everybody, as a comparison and as a parallel, not everybody in the world transacts in USD. Not
Yeah.
everybody in the world transacts in yen. Not everybody transacts with the euro. And it would behoove an artist to shut off parts of the globe just based off of what kind of currency they transact in. So I saw it early on as like, holy shit, that like this is really like, a global economy. Like yes, it's everybody around the globe, but it really kind of is like a global economy. We have all these
Yeah.
different currencies and currency rates and everything. And I saw it as like, well, my gosh, why not be on, more chains? Because that's just a wider audience. That's just more people that who love art can enjoy it. Like people who transact with a euro, does that mean that they can only see art from artists that transact in euros? No. Same with with ETH or Solana or Tez. I keep going back to like the the fiat currencies as an example, but you know what I mean? Like it just seems kind of silly that all of these imaginary restrictions kept popping up. And it's like, don't you guys see like the over time, in the long run, looking ahead, 5-10 years down the road, again thinking forward, like there will be a solvable app that will bring everything and aggregate everything across all chains, across all wallets into one place for you. And we don't have it yet, but I know that there are teams working on it, which makes me really excited. But it was those kinds of decisions and choices that I considered early on that made minting on Solana like a no-brainer for me, to be
Right.
honest. And so I found Exchange, I want to say February was it January or February? Oh, maybe it was January. I think it was January of last year. Yes, because I minted on Holoplex in December of 2021, and then January, I believe, on exchange, and then form function was May of last year. So yeah, I think it's and going from January to May, there weren't a lot of artists that were cross chain. And then we saw a little bit of Solana summer happening, and we saw a lot of people come over from ETH to Solana and realize, oh wow, maybe this is like a great community. And I'm like, this is what I've been telling you guys.
I know.
So long.
Trust me, I feel like I was going crazy.
Yes, you know
I definitely
exactly.
know. It's
Yeah.
funny though, like it goes to show, like just like crypto, right? Someone can tell you that people get rugged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're not gonna fully learn about it, believe it until I got rugged.
Yeah.
Now I know what people mean. Just humans are that way, I think, a lot. Like, a lot of people did listen. A lot of people did kind of come and start to discover and explore. Of course, you always want like more friends to come over and experience the good. But it's so cool now to see like again like a few collectors or a few artists. They come in, they have a little bit of success, or they just start having a good time, and then they start to share that with others. And we're seeing that a lot lately, which is really cool, especially with where we are now. Like, we're, like you said, we're now a year in to like art on Solana, like really starting to like pick up steam. I'm excited to see what happens this year with just more people like starting to accept that art is art no matter where it is.
Mm-hmm.
People can have different release styles and different kinds of work, different places. It's just, I feel like you're right that a lot of people did make these imaginary rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing I never liked. And it's like, we've been in this space for less than a year. Why are you trying to make up rules for, but I think that people need a reason why they've been collected or why they haven't been collected. So they like to be like, okay, it must be because of X, Y, and Z conspiracy. The GIF where the guy's like the board behind him, Always Sunny GIF, where it's like that. That's basically
Charlie.
like, yes, that was all of us in like the early days of ETH being like, okay, I got it. I have the recipe now.
There was sorry, there was something you had said about like the being in the early days of Solana. One thing I also noticed being in navigating Solana community and ETH community and Tez community is that there was so sorry there was a lot of innovation happening on the Solana platforms that kind of like lit the fuse for trends that happened and spilled over into ETH. Like when PNFTs came out, participation NFTs came out, that was the Solana thing before Bitters editions was ever a thing on ETH. And same with, I just lost my train of thought.
I mean, honestly, the whole royalty talk, like the whole.
Oh my gosh! Yes, it started on Solana. It started on Solana, and then it kind of trickled over to ETH, and lo and behold, now we see like major changes happening on ETH. Yeah, I noticed that like all of these ideas, these like innovations, and like the bigger trends that we saw happening on ETH, like they started on Solana. I don't think people give the chain as much credit for that.
It's cool to see like some examples of that happening. You know what I mean? Like generally, ETH is the leading indicator of tech, and we have reached a point a couple times now. I mean, this is with NFTs specifically, right? Like, so don't twist my words around or anything, but with NFTs specifically. But now we've seen on Solana, we've seen us lead the way on NFTs quite a few times now. And what I hope is like in this next year, we get more of that view towards artists and the innovation that's happened. What's crazy is like with Exchange, for instance, we've been able to reach market parity for the features that these platforms that have been around for 2+ years have, and we've been able to do that in now 1 year, 15 months, I believe we're at right now. And it's
That's
just like,
incredible.
so like, and now it goes, this year we get to shift focus a little bit, right? It's like, so we focus year one on like, get all of the tools, get all the features that creators can use. And then it's like, now we focus on like education layers and onboarding more and more IRL galleries and, all of the things that, because one thing I notice, again, it's not just limited to ETH, it's every chain. A lot of times marketplaces don't do enough, right? A marketplace is like, we'll use the prime example of like creators selling on OpenSea, which doesn't really happen as much anymore, right? It happens sometimes, but a lot less. That's because they weren't getting anything, right? There was no new features coming for them. There was no, you were kind of just using it as a place to sell your art, essentially, right? Because nothing else really existed. And I think where the future for marketplaces goes is like, who's going to go and be above and beyond for me, the creator, right? And that's where I'm personally excited. Like, as an artist who also works on a team at a marketplace, it's like, that's the race I'm ready for. It's like, since day one, I've been like, what are they doing for you though?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because and this has been the case since I started joining these like Twitter spaces about with Solana and about Solana for from the get-go, was like, you guys have always been open to feedback, and you ask about like, okay, what would you want to see as an artist on a platform, or this is what we have in the works. Like, there's very few platforms that are so focused on improvement and being open to feedback and changing things that don't work and fixing things so they do. Like, there's been just an overwhelming positive change happening because of that two-way communication between platform and artist, which doesn't always exist, but it does in exchange.
I hope it's a trend that we can make happen more.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that like, as us as an exchange kind of become more and more known for a place for art, hopefully that ethos can kind of go out into the community, just same way that some of the ethoses of Super Rare and all of these other places that have been successful have kind of gone out into the ecosystem. Hopefully we have that same thing as well. It's like a little bit of speculating there, but like, treat artists good. I think that's like something that I don't know how people can forget that, but sometimes it happens.
It's true. Like, especially, and I don't want to diminish or distill anybody's work into like a product, but like, if you were an artist, you're creating something, and if that creation isn't presented in the best way possible, then it's not going to appeal to anybody. So I love that exchange has that, like, understands that concept of like, the presentation of that creation on the platform needs to knock it out of the park, so that way it does look appealing, and you know what I mean? Like, there's definitely a symbiotic relationship there.
Yeah.
And it's not just one-sided.
Yeah.
It's not just we exist as this huge conglomerate OpenSea, and you as the creator just have to kind of deal with it. It's way more like equal playing field.
Yeah, I think something like all of these things that you're saying are almost like the exact reason I ended up coming over and working with Exchange. Is first of all, I came over to start releasing art here because even before I started releasing art here, I was like annoying A2K, and I was like, hey, I like this, but like I hate this and I hate this and I hate this. Can you change that? Or can you add this and can you add that? And through these like really honest conversations, I was like, oh wait, I've been in this space for a year. I've never had these kind of honest conversations. Like maybe there's something here. So it's really cool that other people kind of have seen that as well from the outside. And again, like something that A2K says all the time, it's like the artists on our platform are the real client, technically. Like we're here. Sure, there's a lot of clients, so we do our best to please every single one. But it's like the artist is the driver, right? It's like, so how can we give them the tools, give them opportunities, give them, a little bit more, which I think is like, again, like you said, something that not all marketplaces take that approach, but I think it's the right way. That's what brings us here today. It's like, how can we do more with artists? How can we get more real? How can we get down to like how an artist operates? And through these talks, I think a lot of people listen in and pull little bits that can help them along their way.
Yeah, for sure. There have been times where I've listened to Exchange's YouTube series and being like, oh my gosh, I hadn't thought of that before, or like, oh my, that's such a golden nugget of wisdom that I could apply to my practice. And you're totally right. Like these types of conversations, like it's for the benefit of all. If I can convince just one other artist to like, all right, I'm looking into the camera. All right, artist, I'm looking just at you and only you. If you can submit your work to just one artist residency today, or even this weekend, I will have done my job here. But you know what I mean? Like there are, this type of opportunity, to even be asked by your team to be a part of a series like this, like it's huge. Like, and I don't take it for granted. So I want to make sure that the things that are coming out of my mouth hole are of value to, other artists that can actually, take it as inspiration or take it as like, lessons of what to do or what not to do, and to just kind of help the greater ecosystem.
On that note, like on this residency note, on this gallery note, like what are 3 direct tips that you would give to artists who are seeking to let's do grants, because I think that people talk about galleries a lot, and I think that both tips will probably apply to both, but grants and galleries, like what are 3 tips that you would give to artists seeking grants and galleries?
For grants, look for unrestricted grants, which means that a restricted grant means that you have to submit like a very detailed budgeted or proposal of your budget, like where does every cent go, and at what timeline. If you're not an artist that operates that way, then look for unrestricted grants that have a grant amount and then will fund however what path takes with your practice. That's important. The second thing is read the prospectus. If it's a grant where, let's say that you do landscape photography, if it's a grant that is like, we're looking for somebody that can do artwork with light bulbs, or you know what I mean, like something that, like, if it doesn't fit with what you're doing, don't reach for it. Like, or how should I say it, don't overreach for it. Right. Let me put it that way. Like not every grant is going to be a good fit for what your vision is, and that's okay, because maybe that grant exists for somebody else. There's, without this scarcity mindset, like there's a grant out there for you. That grant might be, the light bulb grant might be for somebody else. And know that that's okay. And to really read the prospectus, like if they're asking for a 2-page resume, don't give them 3, give them 2. If they're asking for, make sure you name your files, like last name first name, title of piece, file format, do it in the exact way that they're asking. All of these little details that are all within the prospectus, I cannot tell you how many people overlook them or think that they don't matter, or just, kind of like turn a blind eye in the sake of, I am running out of time and I have to send this off and get it submitted. It's the first disqualifier. If you don't follow the directions and the prospectus, you're automatically disqualified. And it's like, why even bother? Right? So give yourself time to read that prospectus. And thirdly, your portfolio, a lot of the times they go off of the images more so than experience. So in fact, I'm looking at I'm working on a few proposals myself for some opportunities, and which are due at the end of this month. So I still have like 2.5 weeks, but like they've stated, like, give us your resume, tell us your experience, but know that we will go off of your imagery, like your artwork, and what you intend to do at this residency, more so than what you've done in the past. So if you're like, oh, I'm an artist that's been featured in XYZ magazine, blah, 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 that's great. But if your artwork is crap, they're not going to, you won't be on their radar. So submit your like, curate your own work into the best cream of the crop of the pieces that you're just so incredibly proud of, that speak to your vision as an artist, and that, fits within the grant that they're the grant prospectus that they're looking to fund. Like, that's the perfect trifecta right there.
I think that's really great advice. I think it's such a world that artists, especially in the digital space, they're not used to looking into, but like these opportunities exist for everyone to try for. Like, if you consider yourself a career artist, and I know what's so cool about Web3 is so many more are starting to see themselves first as an artist, and then some are now seeing themselves as a career artist. It's like some people already knew they were an artist, and then this has made it go to the next step. Like things like that you just said, or how you take it to the even next step, right? Get in a little bit with like the academic art world, with the traditional art world. Like there's so much to learn in this. And like, like you said, get rid of the scarcity mindset. The same goes for information. There's no reason that you have to be scarce with your information,
Exactly. Like if you come across grants, like tweet about it, tell other artists, because that grant might, the grant about the light bulbs might not work for you, but if you share that with others, maybe somebody's body of work is just about light bulbs, and that grant could be life-changing for their practice. Like, I totally 100% agree with you. Like, gatekeeping.
It could be that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
I love it.
I had to do it. You talked a little bit about this, and thank you so much for this amazing chat in general. But you talked a little bit about your grants that you're working on for the end of this month. But where do you want to go next with your art? What is next for Rebecca Rose, the creator? Like we've gone around with the education, with all of this, but what's next for Rebecca Rose, the creator?
So I kind of alluded to it a little bit early on. Like the more meaningful, deeper subject matter works with the digital collages that I'm doing, those right now exist as like 3D files, of course, and also videos of kind of like going through the scene. I am not able to mint them just yet as 3-dimensional sculpted files to put into the metaverse, because they're so large. We're talking like, I mean, the file size on it is just, they're huge. And no platform, every platform that I use has file size limitations. So I can't mint those. I've been talking with a few people that are helping me kind of like piece out sections of these 3-dimensional sculptures, walkable art installations, to then hopefully mint one by one, that can then be,
that's cool,
dropped into the metaverse, like side by side, to then experience. It's a workaround. Ideally, I would much rather just mint the one of one and be done with it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try that and see how it works. But yeah, I really dig that, like, my artwork that I'm doing now with the concept of, really stepping into the work of art and really becoming part of the piece, harkens back all the way to my early days at Disneyland as like my earliest influencer of stepping into, a life-size art installation of Disneyland and being part of that story. And I'm excited for that. And I'm going to keep pursuing that for this year. So there's, lots of good stuff happening. I've got an exhibition in Paris at the end of March. I was just approached by a project to do something. I don't know if I can say just yet, but I'm really excited about it. And that'll probably be early, what was it, April? Is that spring? Mid-spring?
It depends
Mid-spring?
on where you are, I guess. It's
Early,
a
late spring?
coin flip in New York on whether it's going to be snowing or hot or who knows.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm showing at NFT NYC again this year. Just got like the official congratulations email from them for that, which is cool. And then I have been approached by a very well-respected collector to do a nifty gateway drop late spring, early summer as well. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what I've got going for the next 5 months, working on all that. So I'm excited. Good
It's
things.
awesome that you have it planned out. It's like, again, this is, we touched on this in the beginning, but like, again, when I started in this space too, I was scared of the word structure. The artist side of me was never professional. It was always very like whimsical, very much all over the place. But as you kind of grow and kind of like realize it's like, oh wait, I can't do this just like being a frayed piece of rope. I need to like tighten that rope back down. So I love hearing that you have like a little, like a 5-month plan. You have goals set beyond that.
Oh yeah.
Intentions are into the future. Like when we talked as short as 1 year ahead, 5 years ahead to 10 in this conversation. So I think it's really exciting. And again, just thank you so much for coming on and sharing all about yourself, all about your artworks, and all about what you have going on. It's been really interesting to hear.
Oh my gosh, Goku, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me about this. This is a huge honor, and I love what you guys are doing at Exchange, and just so excited for the year to come. There's a lot of good things that are going to happen. We don't even know just yet how it's going to
We got to
unfold.
savor it.
It's gonna,
We got to savor it, because 2022, I feel like it was like, I like closed my eye. The blinking guy, like that was me, and then it was like the next year. So this year I'm trying to make sure we're gonna do a lot, but we're gonna enjoy every moment of it, savor every moment of it.
Yes. Love it. Oh,
Well, I
well,
really
thank you.
appreciate you.